Guys, here's why I'm here. I came over here for this training. I came over here to give you my story and to give you the raw material you need to leave here and create massive momentum in ACN. But before I do, I want to tell you my story, and then we're going to jump straight into a system. Guys, I've never done network marketing before. I was the negative guy. How many have ever seen the negative guy? Right? Arms folded, frowning, looking down. That was me. And what I found was I was invited to a home meeting. And I came and took a look at the business in December of 2009. And here was my situation. I had 4 companies that were all losing money at the same time. How many have ever owned a business and lost money, right? It's difficult, but losing money with 4 companies at the same time takes talent. Not the kind of talent you want. And guys, what happened was I was in a situation, I was losing my house, we were in foreclosure, I was invited to a home meeting, I came and took a look because I didn't have any other choice. It was raining sideways, it was 40 degrees Fahrenheit outside, I stepped in a puddle walking into the house up to my ankle, and water filled my shoe. And I remember thinking, this is about as miserable as one human being can be. And here I'm going to look at network marketing. This was my mindset. And I went in and I tried to stand in the kitchen. How many have ever seen people that won't make eye contact? You're at the home meeting and I'm in the kitchen and I'm trying not to look at the host because I'm thinking he might see me. And he calls my name out and says, come sit right here on the couch. And I came and I sat on the couch and I remember seeing this presentation. And I don't want to mess it up for you, but you guys ready? Here's what I saw. I hadn't paid my house payment, but I hadn't missed my mobile payment. My 8-year-old nephew, Anderson, was getting a new mobile phone for Christmas, and he was 8 years old. I had a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 14-year-old at the same time, and they didn't have mobile phones, and I just remember thinking, if my nephew gets one, I have to buy one for all my kids. I go into the home meeting upset about that. I leave the home meeting thinking every 8-year-old needs a cell phone. Every 8-year-old needs a mobile. As a matter of fact, they need 2 because they're going to lose the first one, right? But I remember leaving there thinking, how long will my nephew have that phone number for the rest of his life? And I remember thinking, Uncle Michael can make residual income on it. And I was excited. So I came to a training class and I saw what I'm going to show you today. And guys, this training changed my life. I left that training that day and I learned how to do this. And this is what I learned that absolutely exploded our business. Fast forward, I did a big home meeting at my house, December the 17th of 2009. I had 27 guests there, 17 people ended up signing up. From those 17 people, we ended up building a business that over the next year introduced over 1,500 people to the ACN business. People all over the world, thousands and thousands and thousands of customers. Can we agree that I still didn't know what I was doing? You don't get good at anything in a year. But I plugged into a duplicatable system. And here's what I want you to understand. You see, there's 2 components to what I'm going to talk about that you have to grab a hold of. Number 1 is everything starts with proper duplication. You have to duplicate the right way. And the second thing is you have to build leverage. I have a team in Alabama, which is in the southeastern part of the United States, and I have 2 dentists there. Now, one dentist, his name's Dr. Bishop. Dr. Bishop is the only dentist at his facility. Now, what happens when Dr. Bishop decides to take a week off? He has to shut his facility down. Does everybody understand that? But then I've got Dr. Greg Hawkins, who has 9 dental practices. And guys, whenever he wants to take a week off, guess what? There are dentists in those 9 practices seeing patients. You see, the difference between Dr. Bishop and Dr. Hawkins is one has leverage. And guys, the key to building ACN is building proper duplication in leverage. And we do that in our system with what we call home meetings. But first and foremost, I want you to think about, just for a second, what you would do, and I ask the leadership this, I want to ask everybody this question. What would you do if every expense in your life, every bill that comes into your mailbox, was covered by one residual income check from ACN. You wake up November 1st, you go to your mailbox, you pull out that check, and it covers everything you spend in your life for the month of November. What would you do? Where would you go? Who would you help? What fingerprint would you leave on this earth? Guys, can we agree the folks that were at this podium, they're in that position to begin to give, to begin to impact, because no longer are they bound by something that controls them that they can't control, right? They have freedom. And so what I want you to understand today is you have to have a huge why in order to run fast in ACN. Your why has to compel you and propel you to greatness within this company. So y'all ready to see the system? Let's jump in. You know, first and foremost, I want you to write this down, that you need to schedule a PBR before you leave here today, a private business reception. We call it a home meeting, PBR. Now, why do you want to book a home meeting today? Here's why. Can we agree? We all have belief right now. Can we agree after seeing the promotions today and hearing the stories today that we know that this is what we need to do and this is our vehicle to freedom? Guys, so you want to take advantage of this moment and you want to book that home meeting. So you want to schedule that immediately. Now let's look at how we do that. You know, first of all, you want to set a date. You want to set a date for your home meeting next week. As soon as you hit the ground running, you want to be pushing people into your home meeting. Now you want to set a date for your home meeting just like you would set a date for your wedding. Can we agree, when you decided to get married and you picked the date of your wedding, you didn't call your contacts and ask them if that date would work for them, right? You picked the date and whoever showed up, showed up. Does that make sense? So set the date based on your time frame and don't poll your audience. The next thing is your home meeting. Your PBR should be in your home. You see, one thing I've learned about ACN, in order to build fast, in order to create massive momentum very quickly, you almost have to flip common sense upside down. And here's what I mean. Guys, your home meeting should be in a place that's duplicatable. I've seen people say, well, I need to do it in a restaurant, or I need to do it, rent out a hotel. You see, but the problem is you'll miss some of your greatest people because they can't do the same thing. You see, what I found is everybody has a home. And the smaller your home, the more duplicatable the home meeting. I did a meeting one night, true story, I did a meeting one night at a mansion in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I'm from. I'm talking about mansion. I'm talking about they had their own bartender. I'm talking about, I walk up to him and I'm like, are you here just for this meeting? He's like, nope, I'm always here. Can we agree? That's probably too much money. Does that make sense? And so I did the whole meeting. Guess what? No one signed up. And I did the presentation. And I remember walking up to somebody and said, do you see an opportunity for yourself? They said, no, I can see why they're successful in this, but I can't see how I could be. But then I remember doing a home meeting in a room that was 10 by 10 foot, and there were 25 people in there. We did the presentation like this because we were so crowded. Guys, everybody signed up because they knew something was happening. So guys, the key right now is to understand that in your home is where you want to do the home meeting. Now in our system, we do 4:30, 6:30, and 8:30 every single night, every weeknight. And the reason is we can do a 4:30, present, drive across town, do a 6:30, drive across town and do an 8:30. And the presenter can see 3 different groups of people. People say, how did these folks go so fast? How many have wondered the secret that MD Rahman has? Right? Can we agree? He came in this market and absolutely dominated because he simply went into more living rooms than anybody else. It's just that simple. Now, on the weekends, we do them after 1 p.m. and we never cancel a home meeting once we book it. Why don't we cancel it? Because one of the leaders, one of the speakers is coming, set aside from their family time to come talk to your contacts. Now, we set our date. The second piece is we're going to make a list. This was my favorite part. How many like the fact in ACN and Asia Pacific, you don't have to buy inventory? Anybody? Right? Are you glad that you don't have to stack anything in your garage or put anything in your trunk? right? Here's what I loved about ACN. They said, here's your inventory. How many people do you know? How many names can you write on a sheet of paper? And here's what I teach my team. Go get a brand new journal that's never been written in, and let that be your list journal. You see, people just sit down and they start writing down the people they know. They don't understand that your list is organic. Your list is organic. Every single day, you can be talking to new people and adding names into your journal. Do you know there's 365 million people in the United States? How many are here? 20 plus million in Australia? Right? There's billions of people all around the world. We're not bound to just the people we've met in our lifetime. So take that journal and build your list, but start out with at least 100 names and numbers. I've found that a lot of people, the minute you say that, what do they say? I don't know 100 people. I remember I told Senior Vice President Michael Mazer when I signed up, he said, you need to write down 100 names and numbers. I said, I don't know 100 people. Do you know what he said? How many did you graduate high school with? I said, 350. Right? What was I saying? I don't know 100 people who would do this. Mr. Greg Provenzano, the president and co-founder of ACN, told me this one day. He said, Michael, who are you to decide whether someone should or should not do this? He said, how many phone numbers do you have in your mobile phone? I said, hundreds. He said, they didn't come pre-programmed. You put them in there, which means you know them, but you're prejudging them. And that's why you're not calling them. I'm telling you today, call your chicken list. Call the most successful people you know. Don't prejudge. I'll give you an example. I did a meeting in Nashville, Tennessee. Actually, I called in to close a meeting, a home meeting in Nashville, Tennessee, country music headquarters of the world. And there was a gentleman sitting in that living room that had taken a company in America from $100 million to 2.1 billion US, took it public, made hundreds of millions of dollars. He now sits on the board of directors of Krispy Kreme, which you guys have one. I saw it yesterday. How many, right? My wife, that's why she wants to come to Melbourne, right? She loves Krispy Kreme. But why do I tell you? Because this guy had made all the money he ever needed. But I got a phone call after I called into that meeting and closed it. And they told me this gentleman was in the room and he wanted to talk to me. And I said, well, let's get him on the phone. His name was Steve. I said, Steve, do you see an opportunity for yourself? He said, I do. I went, you do? He said, Michael, when are you going to be in Nashville, Tennessee again? I said, tomorrow. He said, really? I said, yes, sir. He said, could you come by the house? I'm like, absolutely. I got in my car when I hung up and started driving. I go to Nashville. I go to this guy's house. I walk in, and he says, it's nice to meet you. I said, it's nice to meet you. He said, which kitchen would you like to have lunch in? I've never seen anything like it. He had an Olympic-sized pool right beside his tennis courts. Anybody, if you like art, yell at me. We're not that sophisticated in America, right? But this guy had a corridor, a hallway at his house. He said, I got to show you this. And he walked me back here, and I went around a corner, and there was a hallway that went from probably here to the other side of the stage. And it had recessed lighting, and the lighting got, it started dim, and it got brighter, and it got brighter, and it got brighter. And at the end of the hall was one piece of art. And he said, I had this hall built for that piece of art. I dropped out of college. And I remember going and sitting in the kitchen with him and his wife and his 2 kids. And he said, I bet you're wondering why I'm interested. I said, yes, sir, I am. He said, because I've spent 37 years selling multi-million-dollar franchises to very few people who could qualify. He said, here for under $500, everybody has the same chance. He said, but with it comes one inherent problem. They won't treat it the same way. Does everybody understand? He signed up, his wife signed up, and both his adult kids signed up. I did his home meeting. I walked in. He had 5 living rooms. I picked the one with the elk. There were 75 people there. Why do I tell you that? Because he didn't want to do a home meeting. But do you know what I said? In order to work with me, when's your home meeting? You see, no one is too big to fill their living room. No one is too big to be allowed to fail other people because of improper duplication. That's how you create massive momentum. So who should you focus on? First of all, everybody. Make your list, build it up, put as many people on there as you can, but focus on what we call A players. Who are A players? Business owners. People who've owned a business see ACN immediately. I had owned a business. Here's what I saw. I didn't have to have employees. I didn't have to have infrastructure. I didn't have to have inventory. I didn't have to provide health care. I didn't have to have all the liabilities. It cost me under $500. And I could make unlimited residual income and get free if I decided to. I said, what's the catch? Do you know what they said? It's not easy. If it were $2 million to get into ACN, it would still be just as hard, but people would just take it more serious. See, I'm here to tell you, if you want to crush this, you need a huge why to replace the minimal amount of investment. That's how you blow up ACN within your business. Business owners, people who've done network marketing and had success. They see this, they jump in. This is incredible. It's one of the greatest companies on the face of the earth. And what I believe is the greatest network marketing company in history. I don't even think there's anything close or ever been close. Yeah, let's give it up to the founders. How about hard workers? I love hard workers. That's what I loved about MD Rahman. I remember he told me one day I walked up to MD Rahman. I'm like, how did you do this? He said, Americans are lazy. That's what he said, I just work harder. He said, I just make up for lack of knowledge with extra work ethic. When he first got started, he was running circles around everybody. And then the last type of A player is a happy person. How many know there aren't too many happy people left? If you ever go to the airport, you can look around, you'll see what I'm talking about. I look for people smiling. I'm happy. I don't know about you guys, but I like people. I love on people. I want to know people. I was sitting with Miss Gail Rogerson, ETL executive team, soon to be team coordinator in my team the other day. Yeah, that's right. Everybody loves Gail. And I'm sitting in the lobby bar, and I said, the guy behind the counter, I said, hey, Bobby, how's your day going? He said, oh, I'm doing great. And the guy walked by, and I said, that's Lee. He works at the front desk. Lee, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. I said, when does Dominic work again? Oh, Dominic works tomorrow morning. Because do you know what I did? I wanted to get to know them. I went down and just started talking to them. That's how you build your business. I didn't try to recruit them. I got to know them. Does that make sense? So build your list. So what have we done? We've set our date. We've made our list. Now we're going to invite people. This is where it gets fun. This is where you have to, as a new person, understand that you're going to ride the roller coaster. It's part of this business. Set a goal. How many people do you want at your home meeting? 20, 25, 30, 50. Regional Vice President now, Randy Lowry, did a home meeting. I drove 8.5 hours one way to do it. Do you know what I told him? If you have less than 50 people, you're doing the presentation, and I'm going to smile. He had 58 people there. Hit Regional Vice President in 2.5 years in Alabama. Why? Because can we agree, numbers are better than talent. So the bigger your meeting, the better. But understand, 50% of the people that say I'm coming aren't coming. Now, I don't know about you guys. I'm from the South. Can you guys tell? Right? They can't understand me in America. You know what I mean? And so I'm from the South. In the South, people tell you they're coming, they don't show up. Right? I don't know how it works here, but without exception, everybody I talk to, 50% of the people aren't coming. Prepare for that, new people, right now. Right, we booked our meeting, we're making our list, now we're going to invite the folks, and you have to understand the size of your meeting will duplicate. I'll give you an example. I have a pastor on my team. His name's Bishop Randy Borders. He's from my hometown. I've known him for 20 years. He was one of the first people I invited AC in. He said, I don't have time. 3 years in, I had never ruined a relationship. I love on him. I hug him every time I see him. We talk. I didn't try to recruit him. He called me 3 years in. He knew the success I'd had, and he said, I'm ready to get started. I said, great. He said, what's the first thing I need to do after coming to training? I said, fill your living room with people. He said, what's the shortcut? I said, you ready? Fill your living room with people. He's like, no, you got to give me the shortcut. I said, okay, I'll tell you short. Listen, fill your living room with people. He said, how many? I said, 30. So he got 60 yeses. 30 showed up on the number. It was a Tuesday night. I went and did his presentation. I signed up 9 people on the spot. Now, 11 of them said no. We made them customers. But I met a guy walking out the door named DeMarco. And I'll never forget, DeMarco pulls me aside and says, how many did Randy have here? I said, he had 30. DeMarco said, I'll have 31. Now, can I ask you guys a question? Does that have anything to do with energy or mobile phone service or home phone service or home security? No, that had to do with proper duplication. I drove 3 hours to do DeMarco's meeting. He had 32 people there because Randy had 30. We call that a big snowball. Does that make sense? So understand the size of your meeting will duplicate, good or bad. Had Randy had 4 people at his meeting, how many would DeMarco have had? 5. That's how it works. Now let me show you how we invite. Now let me preface this by saying there's a whole bunch of teams here. Can we agree we're one big family? This is one thing I saw up here is everybody loving on everybody. That's how you build a market. Guys, that's why I was talking to, co-founder Mr. Mike Hoopus and just talking about the fact that, guys, this market is going to absolutely explode. You're talking about the most momentum ever in Asia Pacific coming out of this room right here. It's without exception. So understand, when I teach you the script that I use, it might not necessarily be the script that you get taught, but hear me, use the script. The more successful you are, the more you need to use it. Because all that matters is you duplicate. This is a nugget. Okay, you ready? This is important. The more successful you are, the more you have to dumb down your ACN business. Because your business has to work at the least common denominator, at the weakest link, at the person who you think should have the least success. They have to do what you do. That's why we have a script. So here's what it looks like. We start out by asking a question, do you look at other ways of making money? If they say no, call is over, right? This script is designed to keep the wrong people out of your meeting. It's not just about filling your living room, it's about keeping people out that don't need to be there. So if I call up my buddy John, I'm like, hey John, it's Michael Crowder. This is a quick business call. Let me ask you a question. Outside of what you're doing for a living, do you look at other ways of making money? He goes, no, I'm good. I'm like, great, I was taking a survey. Click, next call. Why? I got 100 calls to make. Does that make sense? Here's the system. Call 100, 40 say yes, 20 show up. 100 called, 40 say yes, 20 show up. That's the law of numbers. But you know what I watch people do? They get in, they get excited, they call 50 and stop. Call all the way through. Use what you got here. Use your downtime here. When you're at lunch, tomorrow afternoon, when you're in the airport, call. Use the excitement to put people in the living room. Do you look at other ways of making money? He says yes. I insert my why. My why causes that individual to come to support me. I then talk about telecom and energy and home security. I edify a speaker and I set up a reminder or a confirmation call. So let me just tell you how that sounds. So first of all, I call up John. Hey John, it's Michael Crowder. This is a quick business call. Outside of what you're doing for a living, do you look at other ways of making money? Great, you know I do too, John. Here's my situation. I've got 4 companies that have been struggling. My 3 children are all in the university at the same time. And because of that, I started looking around for another stream of income. I found something in energy and telecom and home security, and it's the biggest thing I've ever seen. But more important, I met a guy named Michael Canacosta. Let me tell you about Michael. He's expanding a $1 billion company right here into our backyard and having huge financial success. Now, John, I don't know how I did it, but on Tuesday night at 6:30, I got 45 minutes of his time. Here's why I'm calling you. He asked me to put a select group of people together to hear his expansion plans, and I thought about you. Can I put you down as being there? Great. Somebody from Mr. Canicosa's office is going to give you a call the day of the meeting to confirm and remind you, here's my address, it's invitation only, come early, dress nice, bring something to write with. Click. Is he coming? 50% chance. Everybody get this? It's all in the numbers. But when I call, what's happening? Number one, you got to edify your speaker. If you don't know who's coming, I got a top executive. I got one of the top people in the company. What's the first word of ETT? Executive. I got one of the top executives coming. You got to be here. You build value. You build us so much value that they're afraid to miss. My home meeting was on December 17th of 2009. What's 8 days later? Christmas. Do you know that people had parties to go to? But do you know I had 48 people at my home meeting, 27 guests and couples. Do you know why? Because I built more value in my home meeting than the party they were going to. They came early. People say, why didn't you wait till after Christmas? Because I was losing my house. Nobody told me I needed to wait till after Christmas. So if you see here, people are going to ask you questions. Questions mean interest. I hated questions. I remember making my first phone call. I picked up the phone, it weighed 500 pounds. I remember thinking, please don't answer. I was so excited to get voicemail. I'm like, one, only 99 more to go, right? And then somebody asked me a question. And I'm like, I don't know the answer, right? But I was excited. And they said, you know what? You're so excited, we're coming. You see, here's the way I answer questions. You ready? That's a great question that we're going to cover on Tuesday night. And I'm just straight honest with them. If I explain this to you, I'll mess it up. You just got to come. Talk about the person. Listen, you know me, John. I don't know anything about energy. But let me tell you, Mr. Canicosa does. He knows everything. He's got all the answers. I can't wait for you to meet him. Come early. And then lastly, the three-way call. This is a vital piece here, guys. Listen to me very clearly. People who know you do not know you in ACN. I was an RVP, a regional vice president, and I got a message on Facebook from somebody I went to high school with. We were born on the same day in the same hospital, February 5th, 1974, 42 years old. And this guy's wife messages me, and she says, I see you're having success in the business. We're looking for a business. Can you tell me about it? Well, let me tell you how he knows me. He hit the home runs playing baseball. He was the quarterback for our American football team, our high school football team. He was the president of our senior class. I was not any of those things. I was the one that tried to get out of school as much as possible. How does he know me? That way. So if I try to tell him about a business, he's not going to receive it. So you know what I did? I said, great, Greg, hang on a second. And I three-wayed in Larry Raskin. Listen, do you know what Larry did? Larry didn't tell him about ACN. Do you know what Larry told him about? Me. When I hung up, I don't know if this will translate or not. Ready? This guy goes, dang. I had no idea. Because what had happened? The three-way call created validation. You see, if you try to get people there on your knowledge, you will not get them. I don't care if you're an RVP. Get yourself out of the way. So, when making your phone calls and people have questions, just be brand new. I don't care what the question is. That's a great question. I'm just straight honest with people. People love honesty. Does that make sense? People love honesty. And I just tell them, listen, here's the deal, John. That's a great question, but if I answer it, I'm going to mess this up for you. Even if it means you don't come, I'm not going to mess it up for you on the phone. Because I have posture, right? When I'm talking to him, I got posture. I'm not letting him steal the opportunity from himself. So I'm like, listen, if you have to have information, hang on. Let me get Mr. Canicosa on the phone, and I'll let him answer all the questions. Do you know what the guest usually says? That's okay, I'll be there. Because they know you're not going to answer the questions. Now, the night of your meeting. So what have we done? We're setting a date. Everybody in here. Guys, this is how you create momentum. Set the date. Set the date. The more people you have in your living room, the more a fear of loss it creates, the more excitement it creates, the faster the opportunity. And guys, if many of you, if you've been in for many years, maybe you've gone through a whole bunch of people, go make a new list. We all have people on our list. I've still got people on my list. We all have people on our list, but sometimes we're afraid to call them. Do you know the guy that overrides the CEO of that billion-dollar company? The guy that overrides him mows lawns for a living. Do you know why he overrides him? Because he asked him. You see, that's the power of what you have, but you got to make the phone calls. So the night of your meeting, have the video ready, have it tested, have the phone off the hook, have kids in bed or with the babysitter, have animals in a different country. Come on. I told the leadership a couple stories. I'll tell you one real quick. I was doing a meeting one night in North Carolina. Now, we got weird animals in North Carolina. Does that make sense? I was telling them, I had like baby goat, right, drinking out of a bottle in the whole meeting. But I'm in the meeting, and there's a guy sitting on the couch. And up jumps a cat and comes up behind the guy, and it lays down right here. And this is the guest at the whole meeting. And the cat starts licking him on the ear. And the guy goes, I forgot what day it was. I was doing the presentation. I'm like, what in the world? Right? Get just animals somewhere else. Documentation on the table. Remember, this is your multi-million-dollar business. Print out all your paperwork in color. Have everything spotless. This presentation takes a total of 30 minutes start to finish. I like no food. I'm a believer in no food. This is just me. You can do what you want, but here's why. I had a lady come to a home meeting one night. They had a spread of food. She's eating, just tearing it up, right? At the end of the meeting, she comes up to me. I said, do you see an opportunity for yourself? She said, no, I can't cook. Now, why did she miss the meeting? Why did she miss the opportunity? Because she thought she had to do something that she couldn't do. Simple. Bottled waters, chips, maybe some pretzels, nothing else. Super simple, super duplicatable. Now, your job as a host is to have fun. How many know ACN's fun? How many just excited to be here? They don't act like this where most people work, right? How many know the difference between exceptional and average? How many have ever been at work and it's Friday afternoon at 4:30 and people sneaking out the back? Right? That's average. Some of you guys are here, right? Kidding. There's no way average in this room, right? But what's exceptional? Exceptional is they get the job done. They're there to get the job done. They leave it late. They arrive early. They end up owning the company. You see, in ACN, you're exceptional. Here's the beauty. It's yours. Whether you make zero money in ACN or tens of millions of dollars in ACN, it's in your hands. The clay is in your hands. But here's the way you start. At your home meeting, you get up in front of everybody and you have posture. People are watching you. If I'm in the home meeting doing your presentation, they're looking at me thinking, if I smile, it's going to cost me $4.95. Right? I remember at my home meeting, here's what I did. Senior Vice President Mike Mazer came and did my home meeting. It's time, #1 Senior Vice President in the world. 7 out of 8 straight years. He's at my home. First of all, I didn't understand that, right? But that's what leaders do. And he was at my home, and I got up in front of everybody, and I didn't do this. I didn't like, well, thanks for coming. It cost me $4.95. I hadn't made any money yet, and it's Mike. Right? No, here's what I did. Guys, thank you for coming. I'm all in. I'm all in. I want everybody to know right now I'm going to the top of this company. I'm going to make a fortune in this company. And tonight, I'm trying to find out who's going with me. I invited each and every one of you for a reason. And I got 100 people I didn't invite. And I said, let me tell you about the gentleman I have here. He's going to change my life. He can change yours. One of the greatest leaders in the history of this business. He has teams, he has customers, he knows how to do this. He has 100% of the information. And I'm going to sit right here and take notes as he shares a business that can change everybody's life in this room. And I sat down. Do you know what my guests did? They leaned forward and started taking notes. That's why I signed up 17 of them. So there's a difference. It wasn't me. It was my posture. It was, they could see it in my eyes. I was going somewhere. People say, when did you go RVP? I went RVP the night of my home meeting. I just had to wait till the paperwork showed up. No, I didn't care if anybody signed up. I was going to go find somebody. See, I'm going SVP if it's with anybody, but with no one I know. Does that make sense? Some of you guys need to hear that today. Bless you. We planned that beforehand, just so you know. Welcome guests. Thanks for coming. Turn off your phones. Don't apologize for the no-shows. Hear me, if you invited 30 people and 15 are here, don't be like, well, my A players didn't show up. Right? No, be like, we're all here. I'm so excited. Edify the speaker. Sit through the presentation. Take notes and sort guests after the presentation. Sort. Ask them a simple question. Do you see an opportunity for yourself? Are you ready to get started? Nothing else. Remember, you told them you didn't know anything when you invited them. Don't become an ACN expert the night of your home meeting. Do you see an opportunity? Are you ready to get started? Great. Let me take you and introduce you to the speaker. If they say no, have them fill out a customer survey form. You see, the night of your home meeting, the yeses build distribution. The no's build residual income. If you forget the no's, you will never get where you need to go in ACN. Be as fanatical as the host. Be as fanatical about turning the no's into customers as you are as the yeses into IBOs. And this business will explode. Guys, I am excited to be here. I'm excited about what's happening in this marketplace. But can I tell you, I've watched it happen. I've watched it over and over and over. I went to Savannah, Georgia, and did one home meeting for 10 people. I signed up one person, and I drove back to Savannah, 8 hours round trip from my house, and did another meeting, and I got one more person. And I drove back down, and I got one more person. And finally, I went down and did a meeting, and I got 7 people. The next week, I had 7 home meetings. I went to their meetings, I signed up 14. The next week, I had 21 home meetings. Today, there's 2,000 people in that marketplace, including this entire Australia team in our organization, because of home meetings. So I'm telling you, without exception, this is not up for debate. Systems produce predictable results. That's why you can put the greatest restaurant in the world on the greatest corner in the world, and there's a 90% chance it's going to go out of business. But you can take a McDonald's, and you can put it on the worst corner in America, and they'll never board the windows up. And can we agree? The food's not that good. But do you know they shake the fries 17 times? 17 in Australia, 17 in America. That's called a system. If you want to dominate this market, fill your living room, book your home meeting, set the date, make the list, call everybody, leave the emotions at the door, and be fired up in your living room. God bless you.